Here's the interesting news that I really been looking forward to talking about, and that is something you may have heard about it. All kinds of news suddenly occurring, really just the last week or so. And the basic crux of this, the news flashes are, the news headlines are, the better your credit score, the higher your rate. And of course, on the slide, I put, because that's sort of counterintuitive, right? Better score, you should get a better rate. And that's frankly, traditionally how it's always been. But guess what? This is actually not new news. This was actually came out of the Federal Housing Finance Agency, known as FHFA, who oversees Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. And actually, you can go back to March 22nd when Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac issued new grids for what's called LLPAs. So LLPAs, what are those? Well, that's an acronym, of course, for loan level price adjustments. And this is a grid that reflects different adjustments based on certain credit and property criteria for a borrower. And it runs a variety of things, property type, credit score, loan to value, and things like that. It's a pretty complex grid, actually. And what's happened is, again, going back to March 22nd, but for some reason not noticed until the last week or so, is the agencies have tweaked this grid to where they have added higher LLPAs on higher credit scores, and they've reduced the LLPAs on lower credit scores. Now, these LLPAs, again, loan level price adjustments, are a price. They are a fee. But in a majority of cases, when mortgage loans are originated, these LLPAs are absorbed into, guess what, a higher rate. So as it turns out, yes, the agencies did make this change back in March, but for some reason, it didn't really catch on with the news media until very recently. And there's a couple of things about this that I would want to point out. First of all, the agencies added 2 new categories for the LLPAs as it relates to credit score. Now, it used to be, until this change, on a conforming loan, you're going to get the best rate if your credit score, your middle credit score, when you're getting a 3-bureau report, had to be 740 or higher. That's no longer true. Now, to get the best rate on a conforming loan, again, a Fannie, Freddie Mac type mortgage loan, 30-year fixed, 15-year fixed, whatever, now you have to have a credit score at 780 or higher to get the best pricing on the loan. And there's an additional category, 760 to 780. So now, if you're at 740 to 759, you're now only in the 3rd best pricing level for a Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac conforming loan. So this is a pretty significant change. Now, the other thing is, when you look at the grid closely, where there are increases for higher credit scores, predominantly pretty much in a narrow range of around 80% loan to value. That's where the biggest changes are, both in terms of increases to high credit scores and improvements to lower credit scores. Now, where it looks like the lower credit scores benefit is 680, or actually below 680. Now, one of the things I want to point out, though, is when you put this all together, is this going to impact the rates on higher credit scores? Yeah, not a huge amount, probably 1/8 to 1/4%. On the lower end, it could improve the rate for a lower credit score borrower, maybe by the same amount. Now, I've heard some suggestions that, well, if you're already below 680 and you're going to get a better deal for a mortgage, even though you are under 680, why should I worry about getting my score any better? I should just be happy with what I have. I wouldn't suggest that. Keep in mind that these changes, in terms of improving the LLPAs on the lower credit scores, these changes are what I call just less bad, for not the greatest English. Before, if you were at a 620 credit score with 20% down, the LLPA just for your credit score was going to be 3.5 points. Well, now it's 2 3/4. So you have a little bit of an improvement, but 3/4 of a point absorbed into the rate is maybe 1/8 in rate. So it's not that much of a benefit. I would encourage anyone who's thinking about, not worrying about your credit score as much because of these changes. Don't think that way. It's always best get your score as high as possible. And of course, now you got to get all the way to 780 in order to get the best pricing. Now, here's what's really interesting about this, and then we'll move on. Part of this same announcement was changes in loan level price adjustments for higher debt ratios. Yes, that's right. That what was going to happen was a borrower, if their debt ratio was over 40%, and frankly, folks, a lot of transactions are above that number. Many of them are in the 43 range, as high as 50 or 49.99. So the idea was this same announcement was going to involve a loan level price adjustment increase whenever your debt ratio was over 40%. Now, this is the part of the overall announcement that caught the attention of industry participants. And there was a big pushback on that. And that was successful. It was initially pushed back to not be implemented till August. Now, my understanding is it's been pushed back until next year. So, and that's another interesting tweak, because think about it. If you're over 40, let's say you're 41, you're going to then pay a higher price for your mortgage, which means a higher rate, which is then going to push your debt ratio even up a little bit more. So it seems a little bit punitive. And again, the industry, at least for now, has successfully pushed that back. And of course, going back to these adjustments for credit score, there is some talk that there's some political issues involved with this. I'm not here to talk about that, but I have a feeling that because Washington, D.C. has become sort of aware of this, there could be more news about this. I'm not sure. It's already implemented, and whether or not it can be rolled back, we'll have to wait and see. So an interesting situation, a lot of news lately. I wouldn't panic. Oh, by the way, for any of you, I'll call you mortgage geeks. If you'd like to see a copy of the new LLPA pricing grids for conforming loans, I'll be happy to send you a copy. Just get in touch with me, and I'll be happy to get that to you.